Go ahead.
Okay. I, Arthur Kwong, give my permission to be recorded for the purpose of creating this video. By agreeing to this statement, I give full rights to the integral perspective to use this video for the intended project purposes.
Thank you. So go ahead and please introduce yourself, your name, majors / minors, or any pre-professional tracks, and what school you go to.
My name is Arthur. I'm a structural engineering major and an urban studies and planning minor at UC San Diego.
Any pre-professional tracks or?
No.
Okay. What made you choose your major?
So originally, since high school, I've been interested in civil engineering. The thing about UCSD is that they don't have a civil engineering major, so the next closest thing is structural engineering. But originally, I chose this major because I've always been interested in public transportation, infrastructure, how buildings and bridges are being built. And I figured that when I was in high school, I was sort of good at the science and math things about it, but I didn't know how I wanted to apply science and math in my future career. But eventually I came across civil engineering. I really had an interest in it. And after studying for about 2 years and going through projects and taking classes, I feel like I've really found a major that I really liked.
That sounds really nice, yeah. How do you feel about the general college application process?
I feel like it was pretty competitive at my high school. I mean, all of senior year, fall semester, it's just literally everyone just talks about college applications and like what schools everyone's applying to. For the actual process itself, I think it's pretty fair. Writing 4 UC essays. I mean, they're only 250 words each, so I feel like it was very manageable. And navigating like different portals and different like college application systems. I know there's a UC system, and then like everyone knows about Common App. But I decided to use Coalition, which is like sort of the third up and coming like platform. I wrote essays for Coalition and for the UC system, and I didn't write any essays for Common App, which was pretty unorthodox. But I feel like the whole process was pretty fair, and I feel like sometimes it's really stressful. But I mean, overall, looking back on it, I think it was nice and straightforward.
Okay. How do you get most of your information about like certain schools and like the general like application process and like how to go about it?
For searching schools, I know a lot of people, me, myself included, they look at US News rankings. I would just type in like, civil engineering, and then like top schools, right? And then that's how I found most of the schools I wanted to apply to, that were out of state at least. I went on Reddit to like look at different schools, see what people had to say about them online on Reddit. And then besides that, I mean, since I'm from California, I think everyone knows about the UC system, the CSU system, just by word of mouth. So that's how I applied to those schools.
Did you visit the colleges before applying, or just like looked at stuff online mostly?
I didn't visit any college before applying. I kind of just, based off like what the city was in, that I kind of just applied it. For example, I mean, UC San Diego, right? I've been to San Diego before, but I've never actually been to the campus before coming here. And I was just like, oh, it's in San Diego. Like, sounds like a cool city. I've been there before. Sort of like that. Same thing with like UCLA. I've been to LA before, but never actually been to the campus, so on and so forth for pretty much all the UCs. And then for the out-of-state ones, I definitely haven't visited them at all. Just look at pictures online.
Just like looked at like the location and then judged off the city, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, pretty much. I would just either I'd pull up on Google Maps and then like kind of look at like what's around to get like a sense of like get a sense of the campus. For example, like I looked at like UC Davis. I just looked at
Yeah.
what's around, and it just seems like, oh, like there's like some stuff here and there. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll like it. But like even then, I didn't really get a good sense of the campus at all
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole process. And I honestly like didn't really care that much. Like that, like knowing what the campus looked like wasn't a big factor in my like decision or applications at all.
Mm-hmm. How would you rate the overall difficulty of the application process in itself? Like you said earlier, it's pretty straightforward, right? Were there any specific points that are the hardest parts or like the easiest parts?
Um, I think if I had to rate it out of scale of 10, I'd probably give like a 6 in terms of like how hard it was, 10 being the most difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the the most difficult thing I had to figure out was what essays to write and for what system, because I had a spreadsheet of all colleges I wanted to attend to, and then all of the different like portals they use. For example, I know Washington's University of Washington only uses Coalition, and so I would look for other schools that also use Coalition and also apply to those, because then I can reuse the same essays for each school.
Mm-hmm. Do you mean
Um,
UW Seattle or?
the Yeah, UW Seattle. I know they only use Coalition, I believe. I mean, they might have changed, but because I wanted to apply there, then I looked at the Coalition like portal and looked at other schools that also used. They also accepted the same essays,
Yeah.
and so like the most difficult part was to try to figure out uh, which colleges took which essays.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to avoid common application because I know there's a really big, like long, notorious essay, like 2,500 words. I didn't want to do it at all, and so I would kind of circumvent that by just like finding other out of state schools that also use the coalition.
Mm-hmm. So that worked out pretty well. You didn't touch like Common App at all.
Yeah, because I knew I didn't want to go to. I knew I didn't want to go to a private school,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew some out of state schools that were public also took coalition instead of common app, or they took both. But if they took coalition, I just send an app through that.
Yeah. Sounds like a like good system you got going. Was there like an easiest part of the process that you found going through it?
The easy part, I mean, obviously the easy part was like filling out like your basic information, like name. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
everyone did the same thing where like you start an application, you fill out all like the information, like name, street address, all that stuff, right? And then when you get to the essay part, you kind of just like, oh, I'll do it later. So
Yeah.
that's the easy part. And I think another easy part is compiling a list of schools you want to go to. I know like it might not be easy on the surface, but um, when you know what major you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
it sort of narrows it down to a lot of schools already. Um, for
Like
example,
programs are best.
yeah, like which programs are best and like which programs even have it. Like for example, civil engineering, right? Uh, Automatically, I didn't apply to like Santa Barbara, Riverside, Santa Cruz, Merced because they don't even have that major.
I
And then
didn't
like
know
that
that.
narrows it down within the UC system. That narrows it down already to like only like 4 or 5 schools. It also saves money too. Um, and the same thing for out of state schools. Some out of state schools don't have civil engineering, so some out of state like really like popular schools don't have civil engineering. So that also narrows it down as well.
Mm, all right. How
Yeah.
long did like the overall process take you? Like just
Like from when I first like sat down and like started the whole process to like when I finished,
yeah.
I'd say I didn't seriously start my college application process until like late August,
Mm-hmm.
and I pretty much finished when I submitted my UC app, which was end of November.
So you finished all your schools like end of
Yeah,
November around
yeah,
there.
all my schools were finished by end of November. When I submitted my UC app, then I was done. I also submitted the coalition app before that. I also submitted I think I did UIUC early action, so that was done by November. Um, but I know like my process is not very common. I know people were still grinding until like December, January for the Common App, and I know people like started way earlier, like pretty much their junior year, like towards the
Mhm.
end of the junior year, writing essays over the summer. But I mean, everyone kind of tells themselves, "Oh, I'll write UC essays over the summer before senior year," but like no one really. At least I didn't do that. I can speak for like a lot of people. Like it's hard to do that early. I pretty much did it between August and November.
Would you credit your finishing early to having like specifically chosen the coalition process and then focusing on like the UCs, like just those two systems and not doing like the Common App one? Or?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate statement. I think the reason why I was able to do finish like early per se because I already knew from the get-go. Like I sat down before even writing any essays. I sat down, picked
Mhm.
out all the colleges I wanted to go to, and then figured out what portal to use,
Yeah.
and then that saved up a lot of time. It saved me from like having to write like one specific essay for one college and then another specific essay for another college. It saves time for me because I can just reuse and like sort of like maximize my efficiency that way.
That's like a solid process. If you would have, if you could have changed anything about the college application process in general, what would you have done differently?
If I were to like change it so like students like that are younger than me can benefit from it.
Uh, yeah, or like the way you went about going through your own process. How would you
Oh, I
have done
see.
anything differently?
I think setting a schedule would have been a lot easier
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't know that one of my college deadlines, like one of my essay deadlines was like the same week where I was taking an SAT subject test.
Oh my.
And I was like also really busy with like other school stuff at the time.
Yeah.
So I got really behind that week. And so I sacrificed my subject test to like finish my essays and finish my schoolwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I planned out a calendar with all the deadline dates of like which college needed what by what day, when am my SAT subject tests, like when do I have regular tests at school
Yeah.
that fall semester, then I would have like spaced out my time a lot better because you will run into like crunch times and like deadlines they all pile up on one day
Mm-hmm.
or one weekend and like you're gonna have to like either seriously power through it or you have to make some sacrifices.
Yeah. So advice for people who are going through the process, like use your Google Calendar spreads, use calendar spreads, and like see what's upcoming.
Yeah, that way you don't write a bunch of essays all within like a week of each other.
Pretty
Yeah.
solid. Um, how and why did you decide to go UCSD? Was it just the engineering program, or were there
Um,
any other reasons beyond that?
I guess I'll talk about all the schools I did get into and then why I chose UCSD out of that. So there were three schools I was thinking about: UCSD, UIUC, and then Cal Poly SLO.
Mm-hmm.
So before the whole application process, I already knew I wanted to stay in California. So that kind of rules out UIUC,
UIUC.
yeah, from the get-go. Even though it's definitely the best school out of the three for my major,
Mm-hmm.
but I just didn't want to deal with like moving to a new state and it's more expensive out of state, obviously. And so cost, location, and were pretty much the deciding factors on why I didn't pick UIUC.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it came down between SLO and UCSD. Um, I mean, UCSD is more like prestigious,
Mm-hmm.
but like I said earlier, they don't have civil engineering major, but
Yeah.
SLO does. Um, I sort of valued prestige a little bit more than having the right major that I wanted.
Mhm.
And also my sister went to SLO, and
Mhm.
like I already kind of knew what I was gonna get out of going to SLO. Not that it's bad or anything,
What do you mean
but like
by what you thought you were going to get out of it?
I already knew I already knew like the location pretty well because I'd
Mhm.
always go visit her. I already knew like the location, the people demographic, the campus, what the campus looked like. Um, and I wanted to experience something like new.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so like SLO was kind of like a known quantity, and so I said like, oh, I think UCSD would be like, um, I think I would get along with the people there more. I think I would enjoy not only the campus more, even though I'd never been there. Um, I thought I would just enjoy it more, and I mean, I also like San Diego. It's like a big city, and like I'm not really a small
Yeah.
city type of person, so that's why I picked UCSD.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for getting used to a new place and like making friends from all different backgrounds in general?
Um, I thought about it, and it's hard for me to give advice because I mean everyone knows that UCSD has like a really big Asian population,
Yeah.
but so did my high school back at home. And so when I first got to UCSD, it didn't really feel any different from my high school, at least with like the people with different backgrounds. I think that the reason why I like it here so much is because like it's actually like pretty similar to what I've been experienced in the past, and I feel like although there's like there are a lot of people with different backgrounds for me,
Yeah.
I sort of gravitated towards people that are the same background as me. I
Mhm.
mean, some situation I can't avoid. For example, like my first year roommate was like completely different from me, right? But like, I sort of like enjoyed meeting him,
Mhm.
but after we're long roommates, I don't talk to him anymore. Not that like I don't dislike him. It's just like I just gravitated towards people that are like me, and
Mhm.
so um, I sort of like sidestepped the making new friends with different backgrounds sort of bit. Um, if I were to give advice, though, I think it's hard to say. Okay, I'll talk about getting used to a new place. I think getting used to a new place. I think what you got to do when you first come to like a new campus or anything is just to literally like just walk around the whole thing. And
Mhm.
I know my first week of freshman year, I literally hopped on a spin bike with one of my friends and just like biked around the whole campus just to like check it out and like get a feel for the place. And like it's fun exploring a new campus for the first time. And like since UCSD is so big, it takes a while to get used to the whole thing. And so um, sort of that feeling of getting used to a new campus and getting used to a new place, it's just like you just got to go ahead and like explore the whole thing
Mhm.
and make sure like you don't stay at your dorm the whole time because like you're not gonna like your you're not gonna like your dorm if like you kind of just in it all the time. If you only leave your dorm to go to class and that's it, then your life is gonna like quickly seem like very monotonous and repetitive and boring. And so I advise you to like explore campus, explore the beach, explore San Diego itself. Hop on a bus and see where it takes you. Um,
Yeah.
I know I did that like freshman year, and freshman year you have like generally you have like a lot more time to like just explore the whole place, and you'll for sure find something that you like about every place that you're in, at least hopefully.
Especially with UCSD, we have like week 0 for that's like classes don't start yet, and then freshmen just explore, and then the part where buses are all free is just we have like the campus pass thing. But yeah, that's pretty solid advice. What?
Yeah, and I
Oh,
remember week 0, like I think Six College was like offering like a tour of San Diego for like $10, and like I was
mhm.
like, oh yeah, sure, like I want to go explore San Diego. They took us to like Old Town, they took us to the beach, they took us to downtown. I think you should like jump on that opportunity, especially if it's all organized through your school,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to do any of the work of like figuring out places to go and like figuring out like a schedule. You kind of just like hop in with like your roommates that I literally just met.
Mm-hmm.
I just met them. I was like, hey, let's just go, and then we all went, and it was a really fun time.
Um, how are your class sizes like? Do you prefer a larger or smaller class environment? And are most like of your classes lecture based or discussion based?
Um, I think I can say for, I mean, pretty much every university, every major, when you have like your general math, like your calculus series or your chemistry series or physics series, I mean, those are huge classes with like 300 plus people.
Mhm.
Um, and you're probably not going to talk to the professor literally all quarter. That's just, how it is. Um, so when you start moving up to like your upper division classes, for example, like my upper division structural engineering classes, those are only like 80 people. If a big structural engineering class is considered like 100 people, a small one is like literally 30 or 40. And I mean, then you can talk to the professor more, get to know them better. Me personally, it doesn't really, the class size doesn't really affect me because I'm not the type of person to like really get to know my professors or teachers that well.
Mhm.
Um, I don't really have a preference. I sort of learn the same way. Other people not might be the same as me, so it's hard to definitively say what's better.
Yeah.
Um, almost all of my classes are lecture based. The only discussion based classes I've ever had were, my English classes, and I think one of my urban planning classes are like that.
Mhm.
I noticed it a lot more in like the humanities type of classes that they're going to be discussion based. Um, and then for like the STEM classes, they're going to be lecture, and then some of them have labs with them. And I guess you can kind of consider a lab as a discussion because I mean you are within a lab setting you are like making like lab groups and like talking to people in like a smaller group setting and getting really getting to know people
Yeah.
really well. So I think no matter what major you pick or study, you're gonna have smaller like group work, teamwork classes. It's sort of inevitable.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of lab classes, do you have any experiences with those, and like how would you describe that?
Um, yeah, I've had lab classes for physics and I've had lab classes for engineering.
Mhm.
Um, I guess the whole overall experience is that it's sort of luck on like who you get in your lab groups. I've had lab groups where it's just been like terrible because the people you get are, you know, I'm not gonna throw them on their bus, but like they're not the best. And I've had lab groups where I get thrown into and like everyone's amazing. Everyone's working hard and working really good. I think overall UCSD in general, most of the lab groups I've been a part of, everyone is there to like get the job done and give it their best. And then the overall lab does pretty well. Um, you should definitely make friends with people within the class or within your major because as you move up in as you get older within or as you move up in like upper division lab classes, they're not gonna do random lab groups anymore. They're just gonna be like, you show up, you guys are old enough, you pick whoever you want to work with, and so
Mhm.
by that time you should get some friends by that time because
Get
then you
some
will have
friends.
because no okay I don't mean it in like that's a way like you should definitely like network and
Make
get to know
friends.
people within your major because
Mhm.
once you get to those classes where like you picking your own lab group, like you should have a list of people that you want to work with and know how well they work because like you don't want to get stuck with like in a random lab group at that point because the upper division labs get like pretty difficult and you should just have like a group of people that you can work with that you like working with. It's just a very important point. That's what I'm trying to make.
Yeah. No,
But yeah.
that's pretty solid point. Um, what was something you got to do in college that you weren't able to do back in high school or your hometown?
I think you know the answer to this one.
What?
I mean, obviously, like I think what everyone gets to do is like they get to like like drink more with their friends or like go to parties and all that stuff. Um, especially like if your parents aren't around, then you have a lot more freedom to do like what you want to do. Um, but I'll put it this way: it's like 1 in the morning and like you're really hungry. I can just like get up and go to like Vallarta's or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But like if I did that at home, my mom's gonna be like, "Why are you eating so late? Like, why are you going out this late?" And like, I mean, just something that's like harmless is like going to Vallarta's at 1 in the morning just to get food and coming back. Um, even though it's like completely harmless and like it's like stuff you wouldn't be able to do like back at home. You just get questioned about it no matter what.
Mm.
All right. Um, and I think another thing is like you just meet a lot more people at college. You just meet so many people, especially if you come from like a really small high school. Your class size isn't that big, and you're kind of stuck with the same people for the last, I don't know, like 18 years of your life.
Yeah.
Coming to college, like you can't. There's no other way to meet a lot of people your age in one place.
Yeah.
I think is very important to do that.
Uh, I know you talked earlier about like living with your roommate and like just like getting on the bus and like just exploring with like the events that Six College hosted. And what was your general experience of living in the dorm like for you?
Um, the first thing I say is like it's really cramped. I think my suite had 14 people, all sharing one really small living room, and it was like it was like four triples, and
Four triples, 12 people.
yeah, four triples and then one double. And so you have to compromise a lot because there's no way out of a group of 14 people that like y'all have the same bedtime, right? There's no way y'all have the same like um living habits, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you have to learn to talk when something bothers you
Mm-hmm.
and like not be passive aggressive about it because um everyone in your dorm comes from like different living styles, like backgrounds, like
Yeah.
how they're raised differently, and like if you don't verbally tell someone that something's bothering you, then like shit's gonna go down like downhill pretty fast.
Yeah, they're
And
never
so
gonna know, and then like
yeah, like
gets bad.
it gets bad really bad. And um but on the flip side, it is really fun living in a dorm. I think it's one of those things that you have to do for your freshman year. It's only good for 1 year because anything longer than 1 year, I think you will go like a little insane. But for that 1 year, I think like the whole experience is like really worthwhile because you're for sure gonna make like really good friends. At least not everyone, obviously, but you're gonna make like some really good friends. Not only for like college, but like definitely throughout like your lifetime.
Yeah.
And the chances are pretty high. So
Just because
uh,
you're living together.
yeah, just because you're living together and like being like interacting with each other like literally like every day,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're bound to like make some really good friends out of that. And so I'd say overall, I give the experience like an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. It was pretty fun, and like sometimes you'll look back at it and say like, oh wow, it was a great time.
Yeah. Okay, next question. What are some extracurriculars you're participating in? And just like
Um,
choose the ones you're most passionate about.
I think the most passionate extracurricular is my professional org,
Mm-hmm.
um, ASCE. Uh, so it's the American Society of Civil Engineers.
Mm-hmm.
Every university with civil engineering major has a chapter, and I think the biggest appeal of it and why I enjoy it a lot is because not only is like a student org at campuses, but like once you graduate and start working, it's also like a professional org within the
Mm-hmm.
industry. So you're gonna have like all kinds of people. You're gonna meet like people that have been working for like 40 years,
Yeah.
interacting with like college freshmen,
Yeah.
which is like pretty crazy. And it's like, and I think it's really important like such an organization exists because I know other engineering majors like don't really have this type of org. I know there's a ASME, which is the same American Society of Mechanical Engineers, but like just
Mm-hmm.
overall, at least the ones, at least what I've seen at UCSD, like the connection between industry and students isn't as strong.
Yeah.
But and just the overall national org isn't as strong. But ASCE is a huge organization all across the country, and so um, I think it's very important to be involved with stuff like this because one, like it'll for sure help you get a job in the future, just by talking to people. Because like every school will teach you what you need to know for a job,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not gonna, you know, teach you how to get a job.
Yeah.
All right, those are two very different things. So networking is like extremely important, and going to events is showing that you're dedicated to an organization like ASCE is like pretty important for um, finding a job in the future. Um, and not only that, but besides like the job stuff, I
Yeah.
mean, within my org, right, we help other students, you know, attend these events, sort of give back to the engineering community.
Yeah.
We do project teams, volunteering, uh, you know, um, job fairs, career fairs, stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
we're hosting events that like help bolster my fellow students like career goals, help them get to where they want to be in the
Mm-hmm.
future, and sort of, also, meeting more people. Like I said, college is a time to like meet more people, and I've met like a lot of my good friends through this org, and
Yeah.
so it sort of hits like all of the facets I was looking for in college, like networking with industry, networking with people, like people my age, making
Yeah.
friends, having fun, and then like doing something like worthwhile, like for example like project teams. I can like work on a project, finish it, and look back and say, oh wow, like I did that. Like, that's pretty cool.
What type of projects have you guys worked on inside it? Is like, want to talk
So
a
like we
little bit
have like
about that?
3 major projects. There's like one where you have to build like a steel bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is like you have to build a canoe out of concrete. And then the third one is you have to build a like a 5 to 7 feet like tower out of like wood, right? The point of these projects is to like compete with other schools and
Mm-hmm.
like at a competition, which is why like ASC is so like strong, is because every school has a student chapter, every school does these projects, and then when you go to conference and compete with each other, I mean, it's pretty fun to like have like some school rivalry and like have some
Uh-huh.
like also meeting people from other schools too.
Friendly
It's just
competition.
yeah, and it's just a fun competition, and yeah.
Um, are there any clubs you do for fun that aren't related to your studies?
Yeah, so It's so weird talking to you about TASA, but I'm in TASA. Like I said, meeting more people, making more friends. Um, I guess the reason why I joined TASA, I mean, like I said earlier, I tend to naturally gravitate to people that are like me, right?
Yeah.
And so, out of all the other clubs I could have joined for fun, like I don't know, there's a frisbee club, there's an
I did not
archery
even know
club.
that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of clubs, right? But I mean, there's a reason why I chose like TASA out of all of them. So that's sort of like more my for fun club, and
Hmm.
I sort of treat my other engineering club as like more serious, more professional.
Hmm.
But I still consider that club to be like a lot of fun because like I do things that are like social based with that club
Yeah.
too, and so that sort of encompasses everything. But definitely TASA is like definitely a for fun thing.
Like a good balance of um like things you're interested in general with like classes and boards, pre-professional stuff, and just having fun.
Yeah.
Um, what was your biggest struggle coming into college, and do you believe you have overcome it?
My biggest struggle, I think, oh man, I don't think I really had like a major issue coming to college.
Hmm.
Um, Although if I were to predict a struggle that's gonna come, is definitely like balancing my time and like work ethic because all throughout high school I kind of just like do things last minute and kind of get away with it.
Yeah.
And I think the first 2 years of college, I also was able to kind of do things last minute and get away with it.
Hmm.
So I anticipate doing upper division classes now that probably won't fly anymore.
Hmm.
So we'll see if I'll overcome that.
I know you talked earlier about networking and like the pre-professional side of ASCE. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever worry about finding a job in the future, or do you feel like that's pretty secure because of being a part of this pre-professional org?
I think, well, coming as a freshman, I was a little worried,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of motivated me to be like super involved in ASCE and just sort of not even that, but like just researching industry online. And I
Mm-hmm.
use I use the Reddit a lot to like look at what other people are saying about the industry. And because I put in like a lot of effort my first 2 years,
Yeah.
I think I've already kind of I feel a lot more confident now and like pretty secure about the future. And even with COVID and like the economy kind of going really bad,
Yeah.
um, I know civil engineering is like a really stable industry and career overall because when the economy's bad, the government kind of puts more money into infrastructure to like sort of boost things up, and civil engineering benefits a lot from that.
Yeah.
And when the economy is good, then uh, like sort of like other private companies and clients start building. So civil engineering overall is just like a very stable industry. So um, and I hear stories of people graduating all the time. They don't get internships in school, but they still get hired. And so like um,
Mhm.
it's not a competitive major, so like CS where like you need to get internships, you need to do this and that. Like
Mhm.
everyone's trying to work for the big dogs in CS, right? It's not like that. Like civil engineering is like it's like pretty stable and like not crazy competitive. And I feel like that's also maybe one of the reasons why I picked it because I knew it wasn't as competitive and knew I can it's easier for me to like rise above the rest. And so I'm not really too worried.
Mhm. So like
Yeah.
beginning you were worried, but then like after you did a lot more research and like familiarized yourself and then got involved and like put yourself out there, like a lot of the worries just went away because you learned more and like feel pretty confident about it.
Yeah, I used those worries to like motivate me to like put more effort into like finding what I want to do and finding like a path.
It's pretty good.
I say like it definitely worked out.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear where you go on as things go further. One last final question to wrap things up. If you would give any advice to high school students, what would it be?
Okay. Okay, I think the first piece of advice is I know it's hard to say this, to accept this, but like it does not matter what school you go to. That's what I realized. It does not matter at all. Um, you can go to like, a really good school like Berkeley, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like if you don't put the effort and work in, then like it's not gonna matter, You have to put the work in. Same thing applies like if you go to like, not a great school, right? But you put a bunch of effort and work into like what you want to do and what you want to be, then you'll definitely be successful in the future. And it's like literally the school you go to like does not matter. As long as you're learning um what you need to know in
Mm-hmm.
school, then like it doesn't matter. It will really matter just like the amount of effort you put into it and like um the amount of effort you put into it and like that's what you're gonna get out of it. Um Another thing is don't don't look at what other people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because like once you start comparing yourself to like, oh, this guy gone to this school, or like, oh, this guy is so smart, then like you're just gonna start feeling bad about yourself, and like that's just
Yeah.
gonna like slow you down, right? And so that doesn't mean to like not just to like doesn't mean like slack off or anything, but like don't compare yourself to other people, but you should find ways to keep yourself motivated, if that makes
Yeah, like build energy to push yourself and fuel yourself and like don't let things get into your head too much in like the not so great way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my main point is like it doesn't matter what school you go to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because like
in my
as
opinion.
long as you put in like the solid work into what you think you want to do, then like the results will come as like.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's a great place to end things today. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts on UCSD, your major, and like the college application process in general. I'm going to